Hello everybody, Connor here, and welcome back to another episode of Gaming Retrospective. Ever since the Wii's success with casual audiences, Nintendo has released its fair share of casual party games for their consoles. You have classic games like Wii Play and the Wii Sports series that released on the Wii, and Nintendo Land for Wii U. Despite being simplistic minigame compilations that anyone can enjoy, they all share one thing in common. It's that they all showcase what the new console is capable of. Wii Sports showed off the Wii's motion controls, and Wii Play showed off the pointer controls of the Wii. Nintendo Land featured minigames that took advantage of the Wii U's gamepad. These were great because they all came together as pack-in titles, which meant players who had just purchased a console could mess around with these games as soon as they got the console out of the box. Wii Sports was included at launch with the Wii, and the same goes for Nintendo Land for the Wii U. Wii Play, even though it wasn't a pack-in title, came bundled with a Wii remote, so if you wanted more remotes for the system, chances are you'd get this game as well. After the Wii U failed, Nintendo needed a way to recapture the casual audience. In October 2016, Nintendo announced its successor to the Wii U, the Nintendo Switch. Shortly after, Nintendo announced the game 1-2 Switch, a minigame compilation that shows off the features of the Joy-Con controllers. It released on March 3rd, 2017 along with the Switch and was a launch title for the system. Think of this game as the Switch's version of Wii Sports, but instead of bowling, you get milking a cow. 1-2 Switch was designed to showcase the unique capabilities of the Joy-Con controllers. It refined the motion controls of the Wii remote and added HD rumble and an IR camera. Unlike the other games, 1-2 Switch encourages players to not rely on the screen and make use of audio cues and controller vibration instead. The thing about 1-2 Switch is that it's more of a tech demo than a full-fledged game. It's the kind of thing you'd expect to come pre-installed on the console and not a full $50 release. The problem was, Nintendo didn't include the game as a pack-in title like with previous consoles. If you wanted to play 1-2 Switch, you'd have to purchase it for a full $50. This hurt the reputation of this game a lot. A simple minigame compilation was going for the same price as a brand new open-world Zelda game. 1-2 Switch is essentially a minigame compilation designed to get the player up and moving. It has a total of 28 minigames where the players perform different tasks and compete against each other to see who wins. You got classics like Quick Draw where you face off against a friend to see who has better reflexes, or Ball Count where you guess how many imaginary balls are in the Joy-Con. There's also a minigame about filing your taxes. Okay, I made that last one up, but many of these minigames are based around pretty much anything. The game is full of quirky, bite-sized experiences. Some are genuinely a lot of fun and others not so much. Now let's talk about the minigames. Once you start up the game, you get a scroll menu that lists out all the games. The first minigame on the list is Telephone. For this game, players place the Joy-Con on a table and wait for the phone to ring. It's pretty straightforward, but is still a lot of fun with friends because it can get pretty intense waiting to pick up the phone. The next game is one of the most popular minigames from this collection, Ball Count. This minigame takes advantage of the HD rumble that the Joy-Cons have. The HD rumble emulates the feeling of balls rolling around in a box, and the goal is to try to see if you can guess the correct amount. This one is definitely one of my favorites. It's a simple concept, but it's still a lot of fun. After this is Zen. For this minigame, a random pose is selected, and the players are supposed to hold the pose without moving for as long as possible. This one's a good one. Some of the poses can be really easy to hold and some are impossible. Treasure Chest is another one of my favorites. In this minigame, you're supposed to rotate the Joy-Con to unwrap the chest. I like how intense this one can get when it's a close game. The next minigame on the list is easily the most iconic in the game. It's the milking one. For this one, the goal is to milk a cow and to be the first one to fill up a glass of milk. You squeeze the side buttons on the Joy-Con and try your best to time them right. This one's decent, I don't have any problems with it, but it doesn't really stand out to me to be considered one of my favorites. Safecracker is another interesting one. For this one, you tilt the Joy-Con in a circle until you feel the vibration change. You do this about 3 times until the safe unlocks. Quick Draw is easily the most popular minigame in this collection. Each player stands across from each other with their Joy-Con on the side waiting for the word fire. Once the player hears the word, they're supposed to raise their Joy-Con to make their shot. Whoever has the quickest shot wins the minigame. I would say this minigame is the best in the game by far. It has the most replayability out of all of them. So it makes sense when they were promoting this game, this was the one they were pushing the most. Samurai Training's another fun one. You also stand across from the other player for this one. The minigame starts out with both players being randomly assigned a role. One player is supposed to swing the sword and the other is supposed to catch the sword by clapping. The only problem with this one is that there's only one round, so the game ends pretty fast. It's a lot easier to win if you're swinging the sword, and it's pretty easy to lose if you're not paying attention. Sneaky Dice confuses the shit out of everyone I try to play it with. You're supposed to roll the dice, and whoever rolls the highest wins. Your opponent is able to feel what number you rolled with the vibration and can try to convince you to re-roll. If you roll doubles, you'll get an even higher score, but the vibration won't tell your opponent that. Like I said, this one is confusing. I feel like it's a little bit too complex for this type of game. Signal Flags is another fun one. The goal of this game is to point the Joy-Con in the direction the female voice tells you to go and the opposite of the male voice. This one can get intense since the speed picks up the longer the game goes for. Soda Shake is a simple one, but it's also one of the best in the game. The goal of the game is to shake the Joy-Con and then pass it off to the next person. Once the soda is shaken up, it will end up exploding, and your goal is to not be the person that makes the soda explode. Shave looks like it would be simple, but it always plays a bit janky. It's usually hard to find where the face is, and you always end up missing a tiny spot. Joy-Con rotation is easily my favorite one. For this one, you set the Joy-Con on the table and try to rotate it in a circle 3 times. The winner is the one who rotates the Joy-Con the most, but you have to keep it steady while you rotate it or else you won't get the points for that round. Table tennis is just table tennis from Wii Play, but is a lot more difficult due to not being able to see the ball. Baby uses the whole entire console in handheld mode, and your goal is to rock the baby to sleep. This is easily the one I've played the least. Fake Draw works exactly the same way as Quick Draw, except the announcer will shout words that sound similar to fire to try to trick you into firing early. Baseball is also similar to Wii Sports Baseball, but you have the option to change what pitch you use, and there's only one inning. Just like table tennis, this one's confusing because you can't see the ball. Eating Contest uses the IR camera on the right Joy-Con. Your goal is to try to eat as many sandwiches as possible during the time limit. It's also a simple one, but it's a lot of fun just because of how satisfying it looks. Beach Flags is an interesting one. For this one, you have to race against your opponent to reach the flag and pick it up first. It can be a bit confusing sometimes just because you can't see how far away you are on screen. Wizard's also an interesting one. For this minigame, you're supposed to wind up your wand to power it up and then try to overtake the opponent's color. Sword Fight's also another fun one. It's similar to the Samurai Training, but you both have swords and are able to attack and guard. Boxing Gym is also similar to Wii Boxing, but the goal of this game is to follow what the announcer says and try to make the same punch. The match ends with rapid fire, and the player who gets the most punches right and punches fast enough wins. Plate Spin is easily the worst minigame in the collection. You're supposed to keep the plate balanced by spinning it, but for me it always just instantly falls off. Copy Dance is an easy one. You just have to try to copy the other person's poses. It's alright, but I feel like it's pretty forgettable. Runway is also similar to Copy Dance, but with this one you have to walk around before you pose. Air Guitar has you shaking the Joy-Con on beat with the music playing. Whoever's the most on beat wins. Dance Off is the same as the other few, where you're supposed to move around on beat and freeze whenever the music stops. Whoever's the most on beat wins the minigame. The last game in the collection is Gorilla, and it's the same as the other ones. Shake the Joy-Con on beat, and the person the most on beat wins. You can tell they were running out of ideas towards the end because the later minigames share the same concepts. Aside from just playing the minigame straight up, there's also a shuffle mode and a team battle mode. The shuffle mode just chooses a random game, but the actual fun comes from the team battle mode. For this mode, you split up into 2 teams, the left team and the right team. The game creates a board, and the first team to reach the end wins. The board is composed of a random set of 23 games. The winning team gets to spin a wheel and can move up to 5 spaces or hit the switch spot that lets the other team roll. This is easily the best mode in the game and offers the most replayability. The problem with 1-2 Switch is that once the novelty wears off, there isn't much to keep you coming back. The team battle mode does a good job making it replayable, but after a few games, it just becomes stale. 1-2 Switch is the kind of game that you break out at parties for some laughs, but it doesn't have the staying power of other party games like Wii Sports or Mario Party. The price holds the game back too. The game feels like a collection of tech demos, so paying full price is a tough pill to swallow. If it was included as a pack-in title, I feel like the game would be looked at a lot differently. But for $50, it feels like Nintendo is asking a lot for what is pretty much a collection of mini-games that you'll play once and then forget about. But to give credit where credit is due, 1-2 Switch does do a good job showing off the functionality of the Joy-Cons. I'd say this game showcases the HD rumble, motion controls, and IR camera better than any of the other games on the console, and some of the minigames are a clever use of the technology, but as a complete package, it does feel a bit lacking. In the end, 1-2 Switch does a good job showcasing what the Switch is capable of, but it's not a game you would find yourself coming back to again and again. It's a novelty, a party trick, a conversation starter, but as a full price game, you'd be better off spending that money elsewhere. Like on this, or even this, or this, or this, or this.